when you rewind to like the late 1990s, early 2000s, there are very few people studying games in higher ed, kind of at all. And we pretty much all knew each other, or at least had heard of one another. You would bump into people and, at conferences and stuff, and sort of out in the hallways you could talk about maybe having done something with games, but it wasn't really a thing that, there's certainly no conference like GLS or anything like that. I can talk to a 4 or 5 year old about somebody being a professional musician, and they understand what that means. I can talk to somebody about how film is made, right? And we know that there's a script and there are actors and the people are filmed, and then that film is edited together to make a movie. When you talk to people about games, it's usually something like, well, somebody has an idea for a game, and then somebody does something on a computer, and then there's a game. And so there wasn't a lot of discourse around how games were made, why they were made the way they were made. There weren't people studying it outside the industry that was producing it themselves. So it was hard for people in education to break into the field. So that was one impetus, was to sort of really address what students were looking for in wanting to get into the field and understand this art form. I think the other thing that happened was the really interesting problems around education and around the way we learn and the way we think were transcending all of the traditional disciplines within the university, right? So a standard university is kind of set up in a very particular way, and people are isolated, both academically and even physically within different buildings and administrative structures and this kind of stuff. And increasingly, in a wide variety of fields, there was more and more emphasis on being able to cross those boundaries, and games became a way to do so, right? Games became a reason for artists to talk to computer scientists around digital media and similar kinds of collaborations. And so that got really interesting from a faculty development point of view, and sort of the problems of the age and what do we see about that. I think the neat thing about the games programs that exist currently is they're sort of all cultural extensions of the universities that created them to a certain extent, right? So you've got USC, which takes a very film school approach to the kinds of things they do, or you've got places like RIT, which take a very engineering and computing approach based on the culture of being a technical institute. And you've got some state universities that are taking sort of a humanitarian or multidisciplinary approach. And so that's interesting. That's enabling a whole bunch of different fields to now look at and explore how games are touching what they're doing, because games ultimately are a participatory form of communication. And so as people are looking for ways to say things and ways to reach the public, and as the public is looking for ways to be informed and ways to be engaged, it becomes a natural medium for people to use to tell stories in the same way that we tell stories in any other medium.